Hey guys, Dr. Justin Marchegiani here. Today we're going to be talking about hair loss. We're going to talk about 3 to 5 things that you can do. I've done lots of videos on this topic. I try to always nuance it, try to provide a different perspective and things that you can do to work on supporting hair regrowth and optimal health. And we'll dive into this topic here a little bit deeper. Before we do, please smash that like button. Really helps the search, and love to see your comments down below. So whether you're male or female addressing hair loss problems, there's different mechanisms at root. So on the male or androgenic side, genetics play a big role. Men have a hormone called DHT because men have 10 times more testosterone than women. Testosterone can go downstream to a hormone called DHT, dihydrotestosterone, and that has an effect of causing miniaturization and shrinking of the hair follicle from a thick villus hair to a more thick terminal hair to a villus hair, which is like a baby hair, right? So terminal thick, villus baby hair. And so we have this happening with DHT. And so men are going to be more predisposed to it. And there's lots of studies. There's this enzyme called alpha reductase enzyme. This enzyme causes T to go to DHT, testosterone to go to DHT. And there's studies in people that have genetic AR enzyme deficiency. They don't make the enzyme. What you see is you see microgenitalia as one, but two, you never see balding. And so this is how this theory came about of like, hey, how important is this DHT to hair loss? And so looking at some of these studies, they were able to assess this and say, okay, what's DHT good for? It's really important for sex hormone maturization at puberty, but not so much after that. Okay, not so much after that. And so we have this DHT thing that impacts people on the balding side. When people don't miss that enzyme, guess what? Their hair is perfect. There's no problem at all. And so this is a big deal. So this is kind of how DHT became looked at as a major driver of balding, especially in men. Now, women may still have some DHT issues. You may see it more with PCOS or elevated androgens. Women a lot of times will see more telogen effluvium issues due to stress, due to cortisol, and also men can have it too. Low thyroid. Low thyroid can drive telogen effluvium, which is you have more hair loss that's more diffused across the hair, where let's just say with it's more androgenic, you see it more in a Norwood 1 through 7 pattern. It starts here in the corners and then goes up here where you get the full-on George Costanza, and you see it more in the vertex and the crown too. So it starts here and then just goes back all the way until you have a horseshoe around your head. With women, it's going to be more systemic and diffuse. Women, you'll get it more with thyroid, and also going into menopause, lower progesterone, lower estrogen can impact hair as well. Men, same thing. Low testosterone, low thyroid can also cause men to have hair issues that are more diffuse as well. Again, look for that Norwood pattern. It's kind of just a general pattern. It's not perfect, but a good dermatologist or hair doctor will be able to look at your scalp and say, yeah, it's kind of happening in those Norwood patterns. Just get a camera, get a kind of a side selfie view like this, in the back, in the front, on top, and just regular natural lighting. Not at the end of the day when your hair is more oily, you've collected oils, because oils in wetness cause your hair to get thin. So do it after your hair is kind of dry and relatively in good shape. So hair loss is a big deal. A lot of self-esteem attached to it. And so if you have telogen effluvium hair loss, that can be chronic stress, low-calorie eating. There can be thyroid issues. You could be overcoming an illness. These can all be at play. Now, outside of that, when we deal with hair in general, a lot of important nutrients from a good, healthy diet. Guess what? These important nutrients actually help reduce DHT. So just eating a really healthy animal-based diet, good, healthy fats, you're going to get more selenium. You're going to get more zinc. You're going to get more magnesium. These are really important nutrients. Guess what? They actually naturally block DHT. Not like Propecia or finasteride, but they're going to block it, and they're going to have impacts on your hair for the better. Also, are we getting the protein building blocks? Are we getting the gelatin or the collagen or the biotin? These are really important building blocks for your hair. So if we're eating a low protein diet, we're vegan, vegetarian, we're not getting enough good proteins and fats, that could also impact the hair. And then we have the genetic issues of DHT potentially just getting higher over time, or you have that accumulation of it around the receptor sites over time. We can run a serum DHT. We can see it. Usually the range is like 20 to 60 or so. We want it in that lower bottom half of the range. You could still have it lower and you could still have problems. This is where I recommend, you have some herbs that can be very helpful. Saw palmetto, 85% fatty acid extract can be wonderful. I always recommend doing it topically as well as orally. It's very good to be on top of it. That's my son right there. It's okay. We'll keep it in. This is raw and authentic. My kid wants to go do some roughhousing. So saw palmetto, oral, 85% extract. That way you get some systemic effects. The nice thing about saw palmetto, unlike finasteride, there's very little side effects. The only thing is going to be gastrointestinal upset. And I like it topical because it will block androgen receptor sites at the scalp. So you can do it topically and you can do it orally. And again, saw palmetto, the Egyptians were using it for hair loss 2,500 years ago or even greater, right? So it's been around forever. So it's generally safe. So you can always do that if you're on the fence out of the gates. And then again, you can do some topical support. I recommend just when you do it topically, right? You're doing it topically, right? You drop her, you're going to drop it all on the scalp like this. So I recommend just start in the middle and then get wider and get wider. And you're putting it right up against the scalp when you drop it. That way it doesn't get absorbed by the hair. If you put it like on the hair, it's going to get into the hair and it won't touch the skin. So get a dropper, put it right up against the scalp, and it's right there. And I'm kind of moving the hair out of the way. And I'm just going in a semicircular fashion, just placing a drop. And then the drop comes like here, right up here, down the side, and then right up like I'm combing it back a little bit, combing it, and then right down the side here, and right down into the sideburn. And then afterwards, it's a little massage like this here, a little bit wider, a little bit wider, a little bit wider, a little bit wider, and then back in, a little bit wider, and then same thing here. It's just like this, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, all the way up, and then right back down like this. So it's very, very gentle, no tugging, no pain. And again, I'm not doing it all the way. I don't wreck my hair for the video, but you get the gist. A couple more inches, my hair's on the scalp, and you see it. And then right here at the sideburn. Okay, so myself, I do a little bit of soft meadow. I do a little bit of topical copper peptides here. I'm getting a tiny bit of graying right here. So I'm doing a little bit of copper peptides because copper is shown to be very helpful. Oh, copper, another DHT blocker, right? You can get it from liver. You can get it from oysters. You're going to get it from a lot of animal products, right? And typically copper, you're going to get it with zinc and copper together in healthy grass-fed beef. Let me get the hair straight here. All right. And so then you can massage it right in there. Copper peptides, a wonderful way to kind of help with graying and also help with hair. Copper has some natural DHT blocking effects. So really powerful stuff. So again, if you're having more extreme issues, you can definitely look at a finasteride. I always recommend going topical because you can impact that hair follicle first. Go liposomal. That way you don't get the systemic effect. Finasteride only has a 2% side effect rate. So while you may see some side effects for finasteride, it's typically going to be systemic. And because that medication at 0.1, 0.2 milligrams per serving, the normal dose is 1 milligram. So at 90% less than the full dose, guess what? You have 80 to 90% of the same enzyme blocking according to data. So I always recommend just start at the lowest dose and go topical. But I recommend go the herbs and the nutrients first, and then you can add something topical in later. Here's the biggest issue when you go to rely on DHT to impact hair loss. You're looking at a minimum of 6 months. And guess what? It gets better before it gets worse because you have all these hairs in a hair cycle. You have an anagen phase, which is growth. That's a 5 to 7 years phase. Then you have this catagen phase, I should say a telogen phase where it's resting, right? And then the catagen phase is where the hair breaks off and then we restart the whole cycle. So we have anagen, telogen, and then we have this catagen phase. And so essentially the anagen phase with high DHT, that shortens. So now we grow less. So that's why the hair starts to thin. And the telogen phase, we start to resynchronize this telogen phase. And now we start to have more hairs going into the telogen phase at once. And then from there, it goes into the catagen where it releases off and we have the hair shedding. So when you work on blocking or reducing DHT, you could see more shedding out of the gate. So you have to be aware of that because you're going to think whatever you're doing is not working. So you have to be aware of that. So again, if you have extreme issues, you can go into a finasteride. Just do it topical, do it liposomal is a better way to do it out of the gates. That way, any systemic side effects in that 2% side will be a problem. Why does finasteride cause side effects? Number one, if you're already aromatizing and you're already insulin resistant and you have very little androgens and you're relying on the little bit of DHT you have left, what happens? Boom, DHT is now gone. So now you have no androgens. Or let's say you're aromatizing a lot, right? We increase your T because guess what? Finasteride or blocking DHT does increase testosterone. You see a lot of side effects of more libido, not less. So when you see people that say, I have low libido, that's actually what you don't see because you typically have, if you have testosterone going downstream to DHT and then you dam that up and you block it, guess what happens? Testosterone actually goes up. That's the most common thing. Like the number one thing I notice on Palmetto is increased libido. And also testosterone on my lab test. Data shows 15-20% increase. And so if you're aromatizing a lot and then you increase testosterone, guess what happens? Now your T can go to E. Now your testosterone goes to estrogen because you're aromatizing. That's why when you do these things, you want to get inflammation down, nutrient density up, processed foods, flours, grains, all those things down. Get some blood labs, get a baseline so you know where you're at. That's a good starting point. So be aware of why do those medications cause side effects. Low androgens and you lower it to nothing, or you have a lot of aromatization happening. You increase testosterone more because that's what blocking DHT does, and then your T, testosterone, goes to estrogen. So just be aware of that. So big things. Get your protein up. Make sure you're digesting protein. Get your collagen. Get your foundational natural DHT blocking nutrients in effect. Copper, zinc, magnesium, selenium. Eat oysters, eat seafood, eat grass-fed meat. Get your carbohydrates in check. Make sure you're not aromatizing. Make sure your fasting insulin's below 10 or 7. Add in some saw palmetto, reishi mushroom. Guess what? Good immune booster, natural DHT blocker. It may not have enough shelf life, terminal half-life in the body long enough to impact the hair as a standalone method, but it can definitely be something that you use in conjunction with everything else. And again, with saw palmetto, don't rely on it just oral. Do oral and topical. You'll get much better impact overall. There's a big meta-analysis in 2021. We looked at topical and oral, and they both worked. And it said the topical also blocked other androgens on the scalp because other androgens, like testosterone, can still cause hair loss, much less. That's why some of the data of the 2% ketoconazole cream, right, that treats fungus on the hair, that also has an effect on blocking androgens too. And so you can do it with the topical saw palmetto too. So you want to be on top of it. Again, the things you want to look deeper at, get your hormones tested, look at your gut, get your nutrients panel looked at, make sure you're digesting and absorbing everything so you can work on getting to the root cause. It may not just be as simple as, hey, do this, knock DHT down. DHT may be a bigger part of an overall issue. And again, if you have more inflammation on the scalp, DHT can have a greater impact. So get inflammation down from your diet. Use modalities like red light. We can also add things like microneedling, which can be helpful too. And then there are things, growth stimulators. Growth stimulators like minoxidil, which work on sodium potassium pumps that open up nutrients to the hair via the sodium potassium pumps. Again, that does not fix the underlying cause of hair loss, though it may stimulate the hair to grow more and increase that anagen phase, but you really want to still get to the root cause, and getting that DHT down can be helpful. And also the other nutrients play a role. Is blocking DHT at the effect of not getting the nutrients? That's still not great. So you still want to fix all the other pathways that could be at play here. Again, this is Dr. J here signing off. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please let me know. I love to see it in the comments. And if you want to reach out to myself here, Dr. J at justinhealth.com. We see patients on the functional medicine side worldwide all the time on this, guys. All right, if you need more support on hair, on gut, and all the other factors that could be driving it, please let me know, guys. All right, have a good one. Take care, y'all. Bye now.